Good morning, Maddie.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning, Gabriel. Good morning, Jessa.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jessa's siblings or somebody's siblings are not happy.
I don't think it's
I don't
on.
think it's mine.
Oh, must be Gabriel's
Probably
siblings.
Laney and Weldon in there fighting.
Probably.
Oh, they're fighting.
Laney and Weldon fighting. Oh. What did you guys do on your math yesterday?
Good.
Good. I thought I was on mute, so I was just
Let's see who else decides to join us today.
trying to find something.
Give it a minute to get on. Lexi. Good morning, Lex. Oh, let's see. Micah's not on.
Lonnie.
Lonnie. Oh, man.
I need to go get my charger off the car.
Get mine. Okay. I just sent a remind, so we'll give them a minute. Let's see, everybody go and put your cool backdrop on. You guys know how to do that? Choose a virtual.
How do you do that?
Hey, how do you do that? Oh, I got it. I figured it out.
What do you push?
Mine
Oh,
is
where'd I go?
stop video, push the arrow, and then it says virtual background.
Oh, I got it.
Wait, I don't know where I am now.
Go there to the light.
Oh, found it. Nope. Oh, no, I didn't.
Maddie is on top of the world. Did you see it? Yes, at the bottom where it says stop video, or maybe yours don't say that. Beside your
Mine
mute.
says leave meeting.
Okay. On the left.
It just says
Mute and stop video.
Okay, stop video. Push that arrow.
Yeah.
Use virtual background.
Oh.
There you go. Micah, join us with our virtual backgrounds.
How do you do that?
Oh. Now I'm grass.
Stop video.
Let's see. Soaking up the sun.
I don't have any.
Jess's white shirt is
Yeah. I'm grass.
We lost Micah. Uh-oh.
There we go. How's that? Oh, I can't see you.
I can't see you, Micah. Oh, he's at Disney. But I can't see your face. It's taking over you.
Oh, you don't have any other ones. I don't have any other ones.
All right. We're going to go into Bible. We are learning about Esther. So we can stay with these Bible and then we'll take them off for mass so we're not just. All right. Here we go. Go ahead and mute, please.
An evil plot develops against God's people. That's the sorrow part of our account. And we are going to see how God orchestrates people and events to provide protection for them. That's the joy part of our account. God is sovereign over all the affairs of men. He is in control over everyone and everything. Haman was King Ahasuerus' right-hand man, and the king put him in charge of the princes. King Ahasuerus commanded that all his servants bow down to Haman. But when Mordecai wouldn't bow down, Haman became very angry and came up with a plan to get rid of Mordecai. When Haman heard that Mordecai was a Jew, he wanted to kill all of the Jews in the kingdom. Haman told King Ahasuerus that there was a group of people in his kingdom that had laws that were different from the king's laws, so they didn't obey the king. Haman told King Ahasuerus that he should not tolerate them any longer. Haman promised to put 10,000 talents of silver of his own money into the king's treasury to pay the expenses of destroying the Jews if the king would issue a law allowing the Jews to be attacked. The king was pleased with Haman's suggestion, so he gave Haman his signet ring and said Haman had his permission to do whatever he wanted to do to those people. Haman wrote a letter in the king's name and sealed it with the king's ring, decreeing that all Jews should be killed in all of the provinces on the 13th day of the 12th month. Any who killed them could take their property. Now, when Mordecai heard of the decree, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes to mourn. Many other Jews did the same. When Esther heard about the decree, she too was grieved and sought advice from Mordecai, who told her to go ask the king for help. But Esther, even though she was the queen, had not been called before the king for 30 days, and she knew that she could be killed if she went to the king without his permission. Mordecai reminded her that she would be killed along with the rest of the Jews if the decree was carried out. He encouraged her to go to the king by suggesting that it might have been for this very purpose, at this very time, that she had become queen. Esther told Mordecai to command all the Jews in Susa to fast for 3 days and promised that she and her servants would fast also. Typically, fasting was for the purpose of prayer. Then Esther would go before the king and request his help. "If I perish, she said. On the 3rd day, Esther dressed in her royal garments and went before the king on his throne. When the king saw her standing in the court, he invited her in. He held the golden scepter out to Esther, so she approached the king and touched the top of it. He asked her kindly, "What would you like?" And then he reassured her that it would be generously given to her. Esther answered that she would like for the king and Haman to come that day to a banquet she had prepared for him. Haman and the king came to the banquet, and once again the king asked her what she wanted. He said he would grant her whatever she asked. Esther requested that Haman and the king come to another banquet the next day when she would tell him her request. Haman was proud of having been invited twice to feast with the king and queen. But later, when he saw Mordecai refusing to bow down to him again, he became extremely angry. Haman's wife and his friends suggested that he build a gallows to hang Mordecai on. That idea pleased Haman, and he had the gallows built. That night, the king could not sleep, and he called for the book of records to be brought and read to him. That was how he found out that Mordecai had not received a reward for warning the king about 2 men who had plotted to kill him sometime before. While the king was thinking about how to reward Mordecai for protecting him, Haman came before the king to ask permission to hang Mordecai on the newly built gallows. But before Haman could say anything, the king asked Haman a question. What should be done for a man the king wants to honor? Haman thought he was the one who the king wanted to honor. So Haman suggested that the man wear the king's royal robe and be led through the city by the king's highest official on the king's horse. So the king sent for Mordecai and commanded Haman to honor him in the ways that he had suggested. Haman obeyed, but he was humiliated. Then Haman and the king went to the second banquet with Esther. King Ahasuerus again asked her to present her petition and promised to give her half of his kingdom. Queen Esther asked the king to spare her life and the lives of her people. The king was surprised. He asked her who would dare to harm her or her people. "This wicked Haman is our enemy," Esther said. Well, Haman became very afraid. The king was so angry that he went out to the palace garden. When he returned, Haman was begging Queen Esther for his life. He looked like he was trying to hurt her, and King Ahasuerus immediately condemned him to death. One of the king's servants informed the king about the gallows Haman had built for Mordecai, the man who had saved the king's life. "Hang Haman on that gallows," the king said. So Haman was hanged instead of Mordecai, and the king gave Haman's house to Esther. Esther pleaded with the king to spare the lives of her people, the Jews, and King Ahasuerus agreed to have a decree sent out that allowed the Jews to fight and defend themselves on the day they were to be killed. When the 13th day of the 12th month arrived, the Jews killed their enemies instead of being killed themselves. Their day of sorrow turned into a day of joy and celebration. Well, we can sure learn many lessons from this exciting Bible account. Again, we see that pride goeth before a fall, as we see what happened to self-centered Haman. His pride led not only to his own death, but also to the death of his 10 sons. Then we have faithful Mordecai. He obeyed God even though it could have cost him his life. He didn't give in to the pressure to bow down to Haman, and God rewarded him in a wonderful way.
All right, let's go ahead and lose our backgrounds here. And let's look at workbook page 152. It says, who am I? So our choices are Haman, Vashti, Esther, Ahasuerus, and Mordecai. I was the king that ruled all the land from India to Ethiopia. Who was the king? You can just say the letter. Lonnie Ray?
D.
D, Ahasuerus, yes. I was a Jewish young woman who became the queen. Jessa?
D.
She became the queen. Who became the queen? Go ahead, Jessa.
B.
C, Esther, yes. Because the king placed me over all the princes, everyone had to bow to me in reverence. Who were they supposed to bow down to, Micah?
Haman.
Haman, A. As a Jew, I refused to bow to anyone other than God. Who refused to bow to Haman? Gabriel?
E.
E, Mordecai. I was removed from being queen because I disobeyed the king, who was removed as the queen. Lonnie?
B.
B, Vashti. My pride, bitterness, and hatred were leading me to be a murderer. Gabriel?
A.
A, Haman. Number the events in order. Because of his hatred for Mordecai, Haman led the king to believe that the Jews were causing troubles. That was number one. What happened next? What happened next? Anybody got a guess? Let's see, I'll help you out this one. Number two was when Mordecai heard that the king passed a law to destroy all the Jews. He came to the king's gate clothed as a mourner in sackcloth and ashes. So after Mordecai came to the gate, then what happened? What did he do? Micah?
Mordecai told Esther to go before the king to entreat for her people.
Yes, to intercede for her people, yes. All right. So Mordecai told Esther to go before the king. Then what happened? Jessa?
Esther went to the king even though she
Had not been invited. Yes, and that was a big deal because if you went before the king and you weren't invited, he could immediately have you killed on the spot. So that took a lot of faith for her. Okay, number 5 is Esther invited the king and Haman to 2 special banquets. Then what happened? Lonnie?
Esther asked the king to release the Jews from the sentence of
Yes.
death.
Yes. Esther asked the king to release the Jews. And then the last thing was the king had Haman hanged on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. All right, let's switch gears. Go ahead and get your math page. We're not going to, while I get a quiz is ready. We are going to do this quizzes. It's only 5 questions to review from yesterday or Friday, Thursday, whenever the last time we did math was. Thursday, I guess. So the quizzes is in the chat box. It's dividing by multiples of 10. I hear you guys popping on. There's Micah waiting on. There's Lonnie Ray. Jessa looks like she's getting help from somebody. Okay. Hey, Jessica. Happy late birthday.
Thank you. I was here talking. I was off mute, or I was on mute. But I said it was a pretty wild birthday. I actually went to the mailbox and used to the mailbox, so that was pretty good. Okay. Let's see here.
All right, guys, this should be mental math for you. Remember to subtract your zeros.
You need it on mute or off mute? Where is it?
Right there.
Jess is almost ready. There she is. Here we go. All right. Good job. Lonnie Ray won that one. Lonnie Ray, Micah, and Maddie all got 100%. But Lonnie Ray must have been a tad faster. All right, so let's look at this one. 60,000 divided by 300. Okay, so we're taking our real numbers. Can 3 go into 6? Yes, it can. So that goes in twice. Now I'm looking at my zeros. I'm subtracting my zeros. 300 has 2, so that means I need to take 2 from 60,000. The 2 zeros that are left goes into my answer. So my answer is 200. This one is 900 into 45,000. Can 9 go into 4? No. Can 9 go into 45? Yes. How many times with your fingers? 5 times. So now I subtract my zeros. 900 has 2. So I take 2 from 45,000. That leaves me 1 0 left. So then I've got 50. Okay. Questions on that? All right. You guys did well on that. We'd do that like our daily math we would do. All right. So now let's do some real division here. You're going to need to take math notes because you've never done this before. All right, so let's review on how we do long division. Does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? Divide, multiply, subtract, compare, bring down. Okay, so we've got a 2-digit divisor here. This one's kind of easy because I can multiply in my head 15, sort of, because we do that with clocks. So how many times can 15 go into 2? Can it go into 2? No. So I need to start right here at 15 into 29. How many times can 15 go into 29? Just 1 time. So that was our division. Now we multiply. 1 times 15 is 15. Then I subtract. That gives me 14. Then I compare. Remember, this is an important part of our division process because I need to make sure that this number is smaller than this number. It is. I bring down. There's nothing to bring down, so that means that my remainder is 14. All right. Like I said, that one's kind of simple because I can do 15s in my head. So let's look at this one. 49 is my divisor. 306 is my dividend. We need to try to get this to, in our head, to round to either 40 or 50 because we know how to divide by multiples of 10. So 49 is going to be closer to 50, right? All right. So I'm looking at 50. Can 49 go into 30? No. Can 49 go into 30? No. So it has come all the way down here to 306. So to get my division number up top, let's round this to compare. So I've got 50. How many times can 5 go into 30? 6 times. Okay. So let's try 6. I'm going to go over here to the side before I do anything permanent to see if 49 times 6 is going to be lower than 306. Now, we use the number 50 to try to get us a number, to estimate a number. When we multiply, we need to make sure that we use the original divisor. So that's going to be 54, and that's going to be 24 plus 5 is 29. So is that lower? Yes, so we're going to go ahead and use 6. Now we're multiplying. We've already got that, 294. Then we're subtracting. 6 minus 4 is 2. This needs to become a 10. Then we keep on borrowing. That becomes a 2. 10 minus 9 is 1. Now we're comparing. 12 is less than 49. Yes, so then I do remainder 12. Okay, so when we have our double digit divisor, we're going to round in our head to estimate what number would go here in my quotient. Okay, and you may have to take a couple of times because if this number was like 44 or 45, it could go either way. So you may have to work them out both ways. It could go down to 40 or to 50. So you would have to make sure that it was going to be low enough to go up there. Okay, so let's do another one here. I've got, let's see here, 23 divided into 87. So on your math notes, go ahead and it should look like this. All right. Can 23 go into 8? No. Can 23 go into 87? Yes. So that tells me where my place value is going to go. So this would round down to a 20, maybe. So let's try it. 20 into 80 is going to be 4, right? So let's go down here to the bottom and multiply by 4, and you'll see what I was talking about. All right, so 23 times 4 is 92. Does that work? No. Okay, so these 3s and the 4s are going to go either way, so you might have to work both of them out. So let's go to 3. It's going to give us 69. All right, that works. So that goes above our 7. Then we multiply, which is 69. Now we're subtracting. You should be working this out with me on your piece of paper. So that's 18. We're comparing. Good. Yeah. So there's nothing to bring down. So that means that I can give it a remainder. All right. So let's review on how we check this. We would do 23 times 3. We do our divisor times our quotient. That got me 69. And then remember, we add that remainder. So we should have got 87. Is that what our dividend is? Yes, so then 3 remainder 18 is the correct answer. All right, I'm going to put one on the board right here. I want you to solve it, and then I want you to put the answer in the chat. So we're estimating our divisor, and then we can treat it like we did yesterday and the days before with the multiples. But remember, when we multiply by the original divisor. So we're going to be multiplying by 91. So 759 divided by 91. So this is going to round down to like a 90. Okay, so you would see how much 9 could go into 75 to start out. Make sure your place value is correct. Good, Maddie. Yes, Jessa.
So you so like you just do 9 into 75 or 90 or 90?
Well, because if this was 9, we would just look at the 75. So then but we got to make sure our place value's right, because 91 can't go into 75. 91 can only go into 759. So I would say, how many times can 9 go into 75? It would be 8 times. That would give us an estimation of where to start from. So then I would multiply 8 by 91. That would give me 728. And then I would subtract, gave me 31. Compare, nothing else to bring down, so then my remainder would be 31. Okay, it is a little confusing because we've never done this before. So when that 91 would round down to 90, so I'm using that 9, and then whatever the first two numbers or the first number 9 can go into. Okay. All right, it was 8, remainder 31 is the correct answer. All right, on your workbook page 151 and 152, you're going to do 7 through 33. Make sure that you do check with your multiplication. Got about 4 minutes, and I found this little song here. I'll show you.
First divide the dividend by the divisor, then we can fit 114 into 27. Then multiply 1 by the 14, write the 14 and subtract, the difference is 13. Then bring down the 3 and the process will repeat. When we do long division, we drop the B. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Yeah. That's how a quotient is found. Divide 133 by 14. First estimate in your mind. I think we should try 9. Multiply 9 by 14 with this mental math trick. The product you will find is 126. Subtract, and the remainder is 7. So write a 7 in the quotient with an R present. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. That's how a quotient is found. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. And when there's a remainder, write R, followed by what's left over. That's how a quotient is found.
Wasn't that adorable? That was cute, wasn't it? All right. All right, our time's about up. So if you need help, which is fine, because like I said, this is the first time you've probably seen this, send me a text and then we can Zoom just you and I, okay? If you need help, or if a couple of you need help, just let me know, all right? This afternoon, make sure that you have your history finished. Your reading doesn't have to be all the way finished today. You've got till Friday to finish those 2 chapters, okay? So I think that's it. Reading history is this afternoon. That's it, all right? If you guys need me, text me, okay? Have a good day. See you in a little bit.